Hello everyone, can any of you imagine that a seemingly harmless pregnant woman and a charismatic, widely respected female police officer could be behind a horrifying crime that ensnared dozens of innocent people and shook the entire nation? This is the most chilling case to date, a series of gruesome murders, with the shadow of death looming right here in Thailand. Who is this sinister culprit, and how did they carry out their crimes? Follow along as we uncover the full story in today's video. Sarah, 36 years old, graduated with a degree in public relations. After college, she became an insurance salesperson and married a local police officer who held a high-ranking position. The couple had been married for over a decade, raising 2 children and owning a house and cars. To the local community, they were the picture-perfect couple everyone envied. Thanks to her husband's status as a police officer, Sarah built connections with many wealthy friends. On April 14th, 2023, Sarah, 4 months pregnant, went with a friend to the Mekong River to release fish as an act of merit. Her friend, Lily Peng, 32, was a wealthy businesswoman. Though they hadn't known each other long, their shared involvement in a financial investment group quickly made them close. With Sarah's reputation as a police officer's wife, Lily had no reason to suspect her new friend. Together, they drove to the Mekong River, Sarah holding a bag of live fish to release. But just as they stepped out of the car, Sarah suddenly told Lily she had an urgent matter at home and needed to leave. She hurriedly crossed to the other side of the road. Naive and unsuspecting, Lily didn't think much of it and continued to release the fish into the river. Strangely, instead of heading home, Sarah stood at a distance, watching her friend from above. Moments later, she moved to the roadside, continuing to observe Lily closely. The first victim. In an instant, Lily Peng, a healthy and alert woman, collapsed by the riverbank before she could finish releasing the fish. Nearby tourists rushed to help, all of this unfolding under Sarah's watchful gaze. Though she was nearby, Sarah made no move to assist Lily. Instead, she hurried to a car parked by the road, grabbed something from it, and returned to check on Lily's condition. It seemed she was confirming something before swiftly returning to the car and fleeing the scene. A kind stranger called an ambulance, but Lily was gone forever. The hospital declared her cause of death as heart failure, a condition often linked to pre-existing heart issues, such as severe hypertension or cardiovascular disease. The problem was that Lily Peng was only 32 years old, in the prime of her health, with no late nights or overwork. How could she suddenly succumb to chronic conditions like heart failure? Her family grew suspicious, convinced her death wasn't natural, especially since 4 valuable items vanished after she passed a designer handbag, a phone, about $50,000 bought in cash, and her car. Determined to uncover the truth, Lily's family reported the case to the police and requested an autopsy. Before the investigation results came in, the police retraced Lily's movements on the day of the incident. They discovered she had visited Sarah's house before heading to the Mekong River to release fish. It was clear that the last person Lily had contact with was Sarah. The police promptly sent officers to Sarah's home, but when questioned, she claimed that due to her pregnancy, she hadn't gone anywhere or met anyone, especially not Lily. On April 14th, the police presented evidence from surveillance footage, forcing Sarah to change her story. She admitted to going with Lily to release fish but said she left early due to personal matters. Though her statement raised red flags, the footage didn't directly link Sarah to Lily's death. Eventually, the police found Lily's car at Sarah's residence, but her phone and handbag remained missing. The investigation was grueling. The autopsy results came back. The forensic team found no traces of poison in Lily's body and no signs of physical injury. As the hospital report stated, Lily died of heart failure. With this conclusion, the case seemed closed. Her death couldn't be classified as murder. But just before the case was officially shut, police and Thai media received dozens of calls that turned the investigation in a new direction. All the callers claimed they had friends or relatives who had interacted with Sarah, only to die soon after for various reasons. In total, there were 14 such accusations. One woman, Diana May, shared that she and Sarah had once been close friends, as their husbands were classmates at the police academy and considered brothers. In early 2020, Sarah borrowed 250 acre baht from Diana, but never repaid it. By early September, when Diana contracted COVID, Sarah invited her to a shopping mall and gave her a cough pill, claiming it was highly effective, along with a bottle of orange juice. Sarah then left the mall, citing other commitments, leaving Diana alone. Almost immediately, Diana felt chest pain, numbness in her limbs, and difficulty breathing. She called Sarah for help but got no response. Fortunately, Diana managed to call an ambulance in time and was saved by a narrow margin. While still recovering in the hospital, Sarah visited her and offered a box of weight loss pills. This time, Diana was cautious and didn't touch them. The police later examined the pills and found they contained a highly toxic substance called potassium cyanide. This colorless chemical, resembling white sugar and with a faint almond-like smell, dissolves easily in water. If a healthy person ingests just 100-200 milligrams, poisoning symptoms appear within 45 minutes, and they can lose consciousness in as little as a minute. Without emergency treatment within 2 hours, death is almost certain. The primary cause of death from this poison is cardiac arrest. Moreover, it evaporates quickly within 24 hours at room temperature. 80% of the substance in the blood and stomach dissipates, making it nearly impossible to detect. It's truly an invisible blade. The breakthrough in the case came when forensic experts re-examined the victims' bodies, uncovering trace amounts of potassium cyanide in their stomachs. Armed with this ironclad evidence, on April 25th, 2023, 11 days after the initial incident, the police finally arrested Sarah. Among the accusations from other victims, one stood out: a man named Ben Kong, Sarah's former lover. When Ben died, Sarah was by his side until his final breath. The person seeking justice for Ben was his friend, who marched into the police station holding a white bottle marked with the code UN 1680, the identifier for potassium cyanide. According to the investigation, Sarah had divorced her police officer husband the previous year. Shortly after, she began dating Ben Kong, a friend of her ex-husband. They lived together for some time, and Sarah became pregnant. But the story took a dark turn on March 12th, 2023, Sarah's birthday. While returning home with Ben after visiting a temple to make merit, Ben suddenly collapsed, clutching the ground and vomiting. By the time they reached home, he was unconscious. When the ambulance arrived, Ben had stopped breathing. Doctors declared his death was due to heart failure, eerily similar to Lily Peng's case. Unlike Lily's family, Ben's family didn't report the death to the police or request an autopsy. Instead, feeling sympathy for Sarah, they transferred all of Ben's assets to her, hoping it would support the child she was carrying. Everything seemed to go according to Sarah's cruel plan, but her luck ran out when Ben's friend grew suspicious. On the night of Ben's death, Sarah threw a lively birthday party with her ex-husband, even flaunting a new gold-embellished dress, a dress she later wore to Ben's funeral. This raised red flags for Ben's friend, who began to suspect that Sarah and her ex-husband had murdered Ben. Determined to seek justice, the friend snuck into Ben's house and found the white bottle of cyanide. From this, the police deduced that Sarah's victims had all been poisoned, as their deaths followed the same pattern: sudden heart failure. A swift search of Sarah's home and car, as well as her ex-husband's residence, uncovered numerous unlabeled medications containing potassium cyanide. In a garbage dump, they even found a burned bottle of drugs and other incriminating items. As for Sarah's ex-husband, he owned a black car where police found traces of the same poison on the driver's seat. He vehemently denied any knowledge of the drugs in his home, insisting that he and Sarah shared the car, so the evidence inside didn't implicate him. Meanwhile, Sarah owned a white sedan, the same one Lily Peng had ridden in before her death. Inside, police discovered tea bags laced with potassium cyanide, leading them to conclude that Lily had been poisoned with tea. After stepping out of the car, the poison took effect, causing her to collapse and die. The method of the crimes was now clear. Sarah's victims all died from a similar tactic, either eating or drinking something she provided. Because their families didn't request autopsies or report the deaths to the police, Sarah was able to evade justice for a long time. But why did she commit so many heinous acts? Was this woman hiding behind the facade of a refined lady, completely fearless? And what drove her to such extremes? At some point, Sarah had fallen deep into online gambling, racking up massive credit debts without realizing it. To sustain her lifestyle, she targeted wealthy individuals around her. The common thread among her victims was that they had all engaged in at least one financial transaction with her before their deaths. From these transactions, the police determined that Sarah had received money from about 20 people, aged 33 to 45, all of whom were close to her. Only a few victims narrowly escaped death, while most perished, and others vanished entirely. This suggested that Sarah may have poisoned as many as 20 people, possibly more. Tracing back 8 years, the police discovered that Sarah's first victim wasn't Lily Peng, but her longtime friend, Jane, who had married a foreigner and spent much of her life abroad. Sarah frequently borrowed money from Jane without repaying her. On July 7th, 2015, when Jane returned to the country to visit her family, Sarah insisted on picking her up at the airport. That very evening, before Jane could even see her family, she died in the apartment where she was staying. Shockingly, after Jane's death, Sarah forged documents and sold Jane's house for 3.5 million baht, leaving her family with nothing. When Jane's family confronted her, Sarah shamelessly claimed that Jane had entrusted her with the task before dying, and that the money had been sent to Jane's husband. After this case, no victims were linked to Sarah until 2019, leading some to believe she had turned over a new leaf. But just a year later, in 2020, Sarah fully embraced her dark side, committing crimes with alarming frequency. She purchased cyanide online, dividing it into tea bags and pills for easy use. To avoid detection, she cleverly mixed a single poison pill into a box of ordinary ones, making it nearly impossible to spot during inspections. As of now, 2 police officers have fallen victim to her schemes. One was the deputy director of the Shentan Police Department, who died at 36. On the day of his death, he had gone gold shopping with Sarah. The familiar pattern played out. He suffered a sudden stroke on his way home and died on the spot. The other was a central inspector named Neil Ba, who died at 38. On April 1st, 2024, he and Sarah brought 110 Atsunuvers baht to a temple for merit making. Tragically, before he could even complete the ritual, Neil collapsed at the temple's entrance, and, as always, the money he carried vanished. Several other victims were entangled with Sarah over financial dealings tied to a popular but illegal gambling scheme in Thailand known as group betting. The police found evidence in Sarah's phone that she was managing a group betting circle with 7 members. Apart from Sarah, 4 members had died mysteriously, and the remaining 2 had vanished without a trace. The truth behind the case unraveled a chillingly simple yet brutal strategy. Sarah's method was to befriend wealthy, upper-class individuals, using every trick in the book to gain their trust and infiltrate their lives. Like a predator, she waited for her prey to lower their guard before striking. She exploited tactics like borrowing money, selling insurance, borrowing cars, or organizing gatherings to extract funds from her victims. When they grew suspicious and demanded their money back, that was her signal to act. If she couldn't swindle money directly, she resorted to poisoning her targets and stealing their possessions. Her favorite ploy was inviting victims to temples for blessings, using the sacred setting as a cover to administer the poison. In total, Sarah and her husband amassed 78 million baht, which they funneled into 11 different bank accounts. Shockingly, Sarah didn't act alone. She had at least 5 or 6 accomplices beyond her husband, including her ex-husband, Victor, who managed a temple she frequently visited, an ex-boyfriend named Paul, and Paul's friend, Gordon. Gordon was suspected of helping Sarah murder her former lover. Additionally, her half-sister, her older sister, and 3 other women were involved. The older sister, a former nurse who ran a pharmacy, had cyanide antidotes in her home, raising suspicions. Another figure under public scrutiny was Sarah's defense lawyer, who had helped her win 2 lawsuits and even confronted victims to collect debts, suggesting a long-standing relationship. Even during interviews, the lawyer adamantly defended Sarah, proclaiming her innocence. The police launched a preliminary investigation into these accomplices, uncovering shocking details. In early 2020, Sarah abruptly filed for divorce from her police officer husband, Victor. Yet, after the divorce, the two continued to interact frequently. Meanwhile, Sarah began a relationship with a new boyfriend, Paul. Victor admitted that Sarah's relationship with Paul was purely for financial gain, as the couple soon started running an underground lottery business together. An elderly woman named Tara had entrusted nearly 9 million baht to Sarah to purchase lottery tickets, only for Sarah to betray her and transfer the money to a man known as Mr. Key. When Tara demanded her money back, Sarah insisted she had no idea who Mr. SK was. Desperate, Tara turned to Sarah's ex-husband, who dismissed her, saying he had long been divorced from Sarah and had no involvement in the matter. Since the underground lottery was illegal, Tara couldn't report it to the police, leaving her no choice but to walk away empty-handed. When the case unraveled, the police discovered that Mr. Pongke was none other than Paul. Sarah then set her sights on another target, a wealthy man named Simon, who was married to a woman named Clara. To deceive Simon, Sarah stooped to becoming his mistress, and, as expected, he too fell victim to her poison. Shortly after, Clara, now a widow, moved on to a new relationship with none other than Paul. Though Paul himself was a victim, he had been complicit in Sarah's poisoning schemes before his death. Unbeknownst to him, he was merely a pawn in a larger game. On his birthday, Paul died under mysterious circumstances, and police later found that Sarah's ex-husband, Victor, had come to Paul's house to pick her up. Together, they looted the remainder of Paul's assets. Evidence revealed that Sarah and Victor's divorce was a sham, orchestrated to lure more victims. Victor, the deputy police director, was thoroughly corrupt, and their depravity ran so deep that Sarah even tolerated his affairs. The two were so comfortable with each other that they vacationed together, sparking conspiracy theories that Victor's mistress might be the next target. On April 25th, Thai police arrested Sarah at a government housing complex in Bangkok under a court order. Though no official verdict has been issued, given the horrors she inflicted, Sarah's actions surpass even the cruelty of a demon, driven by insatiable greed that plunged countless families into grief and despair. What do you think of this story? What kind of retribution awaits Sarah? And are her accomplices more pitiable or blameworthy?